You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
PackersTalk.com.
Welcome to the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Miles Pettit, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are diehard Packers fans, just love talking about the Pack. We are not getting into all the national media sports talking points, all the stuff they get distracted with, which there is plenty of right now. We are diving into the top topics around the Pack every week, breaking down games during the season, sorting through all the stuff there is in the offseason. If y'all want to support the podcast, please go ahead and spike that like button for us. Give us a follow on those socials. But most importantly, jump on over to the Packers Talk Network YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. Help us out. Goes a very long way for us. Makes a big difference. We are in the hunt for 1,000 subscribers. We're almost there. We're getting close. You right now, you're listening. It could take you just a little bit, just a click, just a few seconds to help us out. Go ahead and do it. Lift that finger up and let's talk some Pack, because Packers fans, we hear you. There's lots to talk about here. Everybody's got some feels about this one, losing to the Panthers. Which, I mean, you know, they're not a good team. They're not the worst team in the league. There's worse losses you could have, but this one stings a little bit, and I think we all have got thoughts about it. And you know what? That's fine. This is good. This is why we watch these games, why we look forward to them all offseason. But yeah, so we'll go through the Panthers game. Obviously, the Kraft injury is huge and tragic, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But, I mean, let's be honest, right? Everybody's got some blame they want to sling around for this. Everybody's got their criticisms, and criticisms come out when they lose, not when they win, right? We're not allowed to criticize when they win. That's not how you do it. When they win, you have fun, you bury all the bad stuff that goes away, and then when they lose, you go dig that stuff up, and then we bring it all back. That's how it works. That's what we do. So we're going to do that today. We're going to dig it all up, right, Tim? No?
There are a lot of Packer fans blaming them for not blowing teams out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm right. Like, there's things that have been festering under the surface, you know?
There's been a lot of people angry for a while now, even though they were winning games.
Right. We've been just kicking these things under the rug because it's like, hey, that's a W at the end of the day. And now here we go. They've been festering under the surface, and we get to bring them out and dive all the way into them. So, yeah, there's plenty of blame to go around. Let's sling some blame. We're not firing anybody, but we can talk about it. We can certainly talk about the future. We can talk about how things could be better. And, you know, we can always sprinkle in a dose of healthy perspective to remember this team is in great position right now. They just are. They're at the top of the division. They're right up there at the top of the conference. You win against the Eagles, you're number one spot again. It's not like, you know, the wheels are falling off. Injuries are terrible, yes. But as we should all remember, the last time the Packers won the Super Bowl, they had the most players on IR in the entire league. So not all hope is lost, because that's apparently the world we are paralleling right now. There's all these kooky little similarities to the 2010 season and the handoff from Favre to Rodgers, and now Rodgers to Love. So we're going to get into all that. We're going to have some fun. There's lots to talk about. First, let's take care of some business. Of course, the show is once again sponsored by Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans, as well as Bucks tickets, Brewers tickets, all the tickets. Get them all. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. Remember, support those local Wisconsin business, or your Wisconsin businesses, your local businesses. Goodness, get it out there, because not everybody's in Wisconsin. But Tim, good evening, sir. How are we feeling? Where are you at in all of this spectrum of Packers feels right now after losing to the Panthers?
That's a good question. I'm not feeling very good, that's for sure. I guess I'm feeling a little bit better now that, you know, it's a day later after that loss, but That was brutal. That was an ugly loss. There's blame to go around all three phases. A lot of people deserve blame. If we want to blame, point people out for that. I don't feel very good. And when you add on the injuries, and especially Tucker Kraft's season-ending injury, just made it a whole lot worse. Like, that's the worst news that came out of that game, more so than the loss, was just losing Tucker Kraft for the rest of the season, because that changes your offense completely. But as far as the performance on the field, besides his injury, it was awful. And it was a continuation of so many things we've been seeing this season. And, to lose a game like that, and to go to your point from the top, is they're still 5-2-1. They're still in first place, but they just don't make it easy on themselves. Just beat the Panthers, and you got a little bit of breathing room in the division. Now, it's still a little too soon. Like, there's still a lot of football to be played to be worried about, like, your standings and how many games you are up. But, like, it can add up, and it makes it a little easier on yourself. But with the Packers, it's never easy. They never make it easy on themselves. And this game was just a continuation of so many things we've seen all season long. They continue to make mistakes to beat themselves. And I don't believe in that they necessarily played down to their competition in this game, but their competition had a very simple, basic game plan that should have been quite clear to them coming into the game, at least defensively. Carolina wanted to run the ball. They wanted to limit possessions, and they didn't want to really put the game in Bryce Young's hands. Bryce Young coming back from an injury too. That was we talked about that last week. They're going to want to run the football. Stop the run. That should be your number one goal defensively. Stop the run, and you can limit what this Carolina offense can do. And they couldn't stop the run, and they couldn't adjust to it. And then offensively, they wanted to limit the explosive plays and take away the running game, and they pretty much did that. And the Packers had no answer for that. They tried to force a deep pass when there was no reason to, and they were horrible in the red zone execution-wise. And that's players, that's the play caller. It was just awful all around. And special teams did their normal, dumpster fire that they always are. It contributed to that loss. So
they couldn't go without being seen, right? Like, they need
they got it. Like, I don't even, like, I almost wasn't going to mention special teams because it's the same old stuff, and it's like every week's that. Whether they win or lose, they suck on special teams. They can't figure things out. But let's trot out the kicker who's injured again 2 weeks in a row. Now we finally admit, yeah, he's still injured. Where you have another kicker who 2 weeks for you, back-to-back weeks kick for you, didn't miss a kick, set a franchise record with a 61-yard field goal.
Record.
He's just sitting there. But you got an injured kicker, and let's put the injured kicker out there. And he continues to miss kicks. And you're just going to stick with the injured kicker. I don't like. It's stuff like that where it's just maddening to me, and I know we're going to blame a lot of people tonight, and we're going to get into a debate about certain people. That's your coach, and that's your general manager to blame. And we praise Goody. We can get into Goody too, because his two big off-season free agent signings can't stay healthy, and when they're on the field, they haven't been very good.
True.
But like, to try out the same kicker. But to go back to my point, is it was an awful performance all around. There were tons of people that deserve blame. There's really nobody that stood out with good performances. It was an ugly performance, and unfortunately, they didn't carry over what they did in the second half against the Steelers to this game. And this is a team that is just so high variance week to week, game to game, drive to drive. Like, you don't know what you're getting. And maybe the Steelers game is like the perfect example of what they are. The first half, offensively and somewhat defensively, they didn't look very good. And then they came out in the second half offensively and were unstoppable. Right? And maybe we're going to get that second half offense. And now we come back to the slop, to the mistakes, the impatient offense. that we saw on Sunday against the Panthers. And it's like, that's what they are. They're just this, you don't know what you're going to get. And it's not just offensively. Defense is going to deserve some blame too. And I know they only gave up 16 points and all that, but the adjustments haven't been there. It hasn't been the same defense since week 2 or week 3. At times you're seeing it. When they don't have a pass rush, I'm not really sure what they do well defensively other than rush the passer. And the special teams are a dumpster fire. This team's all over the place. And they're the youngest team in the league, and I think that's part of it. But they also have a lot of experience with those young players. They've been the youngest team in the league for 3 years. So I'm not saying that's an excuse. But I think it definitely plays into it. And it's just week after week of this, you have no idea what this team really is. But I'm kind of like, maybe we really do know what this is, and it's just this crazy, high variance, never know what you're going to get team where like they could look great like a Super Bowl contender 1 week or one half of 1 week, and the other half they look totally incompetent. And that's kind of what they are.
Is that not a problem with leadership? Isn't it easy to just analyze that fact alone and go, I suspect an issue with leadership?
It starts with the head coach. And
okay.
I think the general manager plays into that. And I don't. Hobbs and Banks were his 2 big signings. Neither one of them. I mean, you got to give them more time, but neither one of them can stay on the field. And when they're on the field, they haven't played very well. I think we've seen signs. Maybe Banks is starting to get better. Maybe. Hobbs has been bad when he's on the field, and he hasn't been on the field that much. Those are 2 big misses. Love the Micah Parsons trade. He had a home run there. But he's also left them thin at other positions. And it's still unbelievable to me that they just won't go and get somebody that can catch a punt and know when to catch a punt or let it drop and return a punt. Like stuff like that. You're playing a receiver at cornerback, and he may have to take the field this week at cornerback. We have no idea if he can play. Like it's weird things like that I think the general manager deserves a little bit of blame. I think the head coach deserves a ton of blame. His game management has been poor. This isn't the first year of it either. We can get into play calling, but I don't think play calling is as much of an issue as his game management. And the game management goes back to really the start of his time as a head coach, but it's been more glaring, I think, this season. I think it's been more glaring since the change to a younger team, the change at quarterback. And I'm not putting this on the quarterback, but I think the philosophy changed at that time. But yeah, it starts with your head coach. The execution, like the players deserve a ton of blame here. Like let's not get that wrong. There were way too many mistakes that I don't care what play call is made. You just got to execute. And they didn't do that, missing blocks and making a horrible decision and throw on an interception, fumbling the football, and some of the coverage. I mean, guys just aren't very good in coverage. Run blocking where you're just flying out of your gaps and not being where you're supposed to be. You're taking poor angles or missing tackles. Where the defense we saw the first 2 or 3 weeks where there's a guy catches the ball and, there's 6 or 7 Packers there to gang tackle. We're not seeing that anymore. It's back to the old, somebody catches it 5 yards and there's 1 or 2 guys there and he gets through and he gets 7, 8, 9, 10 yards. First 2 weeks, he catches it at 5 yards. He's going down right away as he catches it.
Their tackling was remarkable. Yeah.
Where's the pursuit? Like, there's just not that same pursuit, the same fire on the defense, I want to say. I don't know. For me, it starts with the head coach. He's not had a good season. And we can get into, offensively in this play calling. I think he gets too into galaxy brain or being cute with it or, wanting to choose scheme and cool plays over like just pick up what you need to pick up right now. Like just make it simpler for your offense. Or a team like Carolina, they were playing 2 safeties back. They wanted to limit explosives, and for the most part, they did. and he still is trying to force the explosives. You have to kind of take the emotion out of it and be undisciplined, or be disciplined and be patient. And I think the coach and the quarterback get away from that, and they want to force things because it's not there. So they got to try and force it at times. And it's like, no, play the game that is in front of you. And right now, this offense isn't capable of having a game like yesterday's that was low possession, where you're going to have to take 8, 9, 10 play drives to go down the field and execute. They can do that a little bit, but not for an entire game. They get too antsy with it and anxious and want to throw the ball down the field. And it's like, sometimes it's just not there, and you just got to take what is being given to you. And the over-reliance on the running game, and I don't want to completely get away from the running game, but it just hasn't been there consistently. It's been there in some, a little bit against the Bengals, a little bit against the Steelers and the but it hasn't been there even remotely consistently. But they continue to bang their head against the wall with these early down runs when your quarterback has had a really good year. Played a decent game against Carolina. I know the one interception was awful. I've already said that. Inexcusable. Played a decent game yesterday, though. He's had a really nice season for him. Why they continue to take the ball out of his hands, I have no idea, and just bang their head against, this isn't a good running team right now. Your offensive line cannot open holes for anyone. The offensive line is underperforming, which is really hurting your offense. Nobody's talking about that. They haven't been good enough. So put the ball in your quarterback's hands. It's going to be tougher now that Kraft's not there and maybe Golden's out a week or whatever, but you need to coach the team that's in front of you, not the team that you want to have, because you don't have that team right now. So play to what you do have. And LaFleur's not doing that enough. It's too much. We want to be an explosive team. We want to get in our bag, and we want to run the ball and pound it on you because Jacobs is a really good back, and he still is. But you don't have that offensive line right now to be able to do that. So trust your quarterback. And maybe that opens up the running game and the rest of the offense for it. It's just they're an incredibly frustrating team to watch. And I feel the offense is frustrating. The special teams is infuriating. And then the defense is starting to get a little disappointing. A little bit. I don't want to kill them too much, but there's cracks there on the defense, and I don't see Halfley patching them quick enough. So that's where I'm at. I know that's a long rant that I just had, but the Carolina game was so frustrating to watch.
Yeah, and I think so. So go ahead and just bring the social media forward. My exchange with Aaron Nagler earlier today on Twitter. Shout out, Nags. Appreciate you for the fun back and forth. I'm critical of Stinovich, and it's not just when they lose, but when they win, you're almost forced to go, well, yeah, they're struggling with these things, but they won, and I think that there's a lot of that going around, that sentiment of, man, I'm frustrated by what I'm watching, but they won, but this is good. Or, like with LaFleur, when you criticize him, the first thing, I've done this, I've been the one who said this, the first thing that gets brought up is, his career win percentage is one of the best. Of course. Yeah. And he's had good wins with the Packers. But that constant feeling of this, I'm frustrated by what I see, but okay, it's good enough, I guess. It finally, manifests itself when you get a loss like this, and it's not just losing. I think if you lose, let's say you win this game, by a score, whatever, you win against the Panthers and it's the same thing, right? It's frustrating, but you won. And then you go off and you lose to the Eagles by a point in a close but winnable game, whatever. at that point, you're not looking at that Eagles loss and going, well, dadgummit, man, all these problems. You're going, well, I mean, the Eagles are a really good team. It was a really close game. Probably could have gone either way. Like you're still then not sounding the alarms because of the perspective of all of it. You're going, well, yeah. And we've been doing a lot of that over the last 3 seasons now. There's a lot of this. Well, I'm frustrated by this, and so I'm sitting here going, that feels like a leadership problem to me. I'm not. First of all, I guess to kind of let me take a few of the points that you had and run through those. With Goot, I don't look at the front office right now as the first, even with the injuries with Hobbs and Banks. I don't look at them as the first ones to blame because, first of all, last offseason, they nailed their additions, right? And you're not going to be 100% like that all the time with, McKinney and Jacobs. But, if you hit one, miss one, you can at least argue that the correct intent was there, right? They tried to sign what we all agreed was, probably a pretty good cornerback. He's not necessarily a premier signing, but we all thought like, hey man, Nate Hobbs, young guy, seems like could be up and comer, might have the package that you're looking for. And I don't think anybody at the time of the signing was going, this is a terrible signing. This guy's going to be hurt. We'll never see him. Like I don't know, you can't really predict those kinds of things. Maybe with Jair Alexander you can, but and even Banks, maybe you say his contract's a little rich, fair, fine. It's the right intent. He went out and he tried to get a guy that he believed could be in that best 5, so he pays him a premium as if he will be there. Again, he's a 2nd round pick, good pedigree. He was with the Niners. You're familiar with those guys over there and how they run things. So you got some insight on. I analyzed the move at the time. Like, I can't be mad about that. Like how it panned out. Yeah, it stinks. It stinks that these guys are getting injured, but I can't go off and be mad at Goody for not, making them not more injury proof. Like that's just, we can't do that. Yeah. So I'm not as quick to jump to that. Sure, they're not perfect, and there's criticism. Hey, make a move, fill some gaps, whatever. Fine, but that's not the highest on the list for me. For me, I'm looking at this going, all right, now we're in year 3 of Jordan Love as your starter, of Stenavich as your coordinator. You're in, goodness gracious, what year is it now of LaFleur? Year 7? Year 6, 7?
Since 2019.
2019. So, yeah. So, I mean, you're far enough into this thing where the offensive system is what it is. Like if you have inconsistencies, what is it, because of the system? Like, what'd you do? Did you change the system? I don't think they did. There's not any signs or reports of that, and so I look at that and go, okay, well, what about the guys? Yeah, you're the youngest team in the league. Okay, but still, your quarterback's been there for the starter for 3 seasons now. Your receivers have been there for several seasons now. Your tight ends have been there. Your offensive line, the core of it, has been there. Like you got leaders at every position that know what they're doing and shouldn't be learning anything about this system at this point. If anything, they should be learning how this system best beats other systems and whatever they may be. But that's where they should be, at least the leaders of the group, right? Tucker Kraft, Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, your Elgin Jenkins, Zach Tom, your guys on the offensive line. You should have Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, all the guys that are in the room that have been there for years and years. They're not figuring things out anymore. You should not be in figure it out mode anymore. And none of those guys should be. And if they're not, they should be able to lead the other guys who are in figure it out mode, your rookies and younger guys or new guys. But I'm not looking at the inconsistencies and going, well, once they figure out the system, it'll be fine. Like that's what we were doing for Halfley in the defense last year, right? As you're going, yeah, new defensive system, some new players, some rookies. Yeah, there was a lot of reason to go, hey, like let's let the dust settle here. There's going to be some problems and some growing pains along the way. You're not there with the offense, man. Like there's just like maybe you could say, well, they had to replace Tom Clements. Well, that's Jordan Love's not the problem.
No.
If Jordan Love was the problem, maybe I'm hearing that, but Jordan Love's not the problem. If anything, the things that you listed are the things that I'm looking at and going, Stenavich has a lot to do with those things. The ground game, the offensive line, those are the areas where Stenavich is that's supposed to be your guy there. And, he is the offensive coordinator, which there's room to argue about what the role of the offensive coordinator is underneath LaFleur. It's certainly not Stinovich's system. I think that's fair to say. But yeah. So this is where I start to get a little bit critical of Stinovich just based on the surrounding context, right? I'm not sitting here saying, I know he is just a POS human. No, that's not the argument. He's probably a great dude based on what everybody says about other hires of LaFleur. They all seem like outstanding humans, but you can use context to start to draw like, all right, well, like where are the areas maybe aren't even the problem, but are areas that's like, if you improve that area, things might just like all the rising tide might lift all ships. And that was the feeling that I had about the D-line coach last season. And then we get Covington in, and I'll be damned. Like, here we go. We got some reports that people really like Covington, and the defensive line is starting to play better, and even without Kenny Clark. And there's a lot of reasons to be like, hey, this Covington guy seems to have been able to help improve some things around here. I don't think we're giving him any sort of midseason awards or anything, but it seems like there's a noticeable improvement from whatever was going on last season to what they have this season. You're shaking your head. Why don't we like Covington? What happened?
I'm not saying anything about Covington. They got Covington, but the bigger thing was they got Micah Parsons.
Well, sure.
So
yeah, I'm not downplaying.
I don't know how much it's Covington or how much it's Micah Parsons, but they're certainly improved along the defensive front.
Right.
But I think it's, I don't.
And you heard reports and murmurs of that before Parsons was there. So again, it's these are little things, just little bits of context. Nothing is a smoking gun or anything like that. And to be fair, the vast majority of us will never have the exposure to know for sure what's going on. So again, analyzing context is the best I can do. So I'm not standing here to say I'm right and I know all, but just from what I see. So yes, when I start to see what the issues are, if consistency is your problem when you're years into this thing, then I am looking at the leadership, and I certainly don't shy away from criticizing LaFleur. I just think that at some point it can't just be LaFleur, because there is another person, at least one more person in the room who is supposed to be the leader, by definition of his position of the offense and the offensive coordinator. And, the next, I guess, leader in the room is probably the quarterback, but, neither here nor there. So I think when you're looking at this going, man, this offense is supposed to be pretty impressive. Like, yeah, there's some injuries, but it just seems like they're not living up to what they could. And we felt this all season long, and going back to prior seasons, right? This is, again, not a new feeling, not a new thing that, now they lost a game, so guess what? I'm going to find somebody to go fire. This is a frustration that's kind of built up, and it's been sort of a consistent pattern of mistakes getting repeated, and it seems like there's just sort of a lack of accountability. So again, not that any one person is to blame. I don't think that's true at all. If we have to pin it on one person, I'm pinning it on Richie B. But in this case, I think where I'm at, and I want to again say thank you to Nagler for his exchange, because he did share an article with me that I read that gave a little bit of insight on Stinovich and why some of the guys really do like him. But I also felt like what I got out of that was some confirmation of where I think they are. And it's not necessarily that Stinovich sucks at his job and he needs to just never work in this league again. I think that there's a certain limit to what a guy can add to a situation. So I think when LaFleur first comes to town, or when you first take over with Love as the starter, you're kind of at this starting line, which is that's when they promoted Stinovich. It was right before the 23 season. So was it 23 or 22 season? It was just right there.
22 season. Yeah,
LaFleur needs somebody that can basically be an extension of himself and implement the offensive system he wants to implement and do it well. And, that's kind of the starting line that they were at with Love. And so I don't disagree that, and this is me actually admitting that my criticism of Stinovich in 2023 was probably more wrong than anything. I don't disagree that he was the right guy for the job then, because not to get all into this article, but the insight that you could get from what Bakhtiari and other guys were saying about him is that he's a sharp guy. He's a player's coach. So very likable, which, I take shots at that, but that's not that's not always a bad thing. But if it's all you are is likable, that's a problem. So he seems like he's a likable guy. He seems like he's kind of, a football junkie, right? Like I think one of the things that Bakhtiari said about him is that if you don't promote him, somebody's going to. It's like, okay, I can hear that. I totally hear that.
Hackett was going to bring him to Denver.
Yeah, and totally cool, totally fair, and I think that's great. I think where they have gotten to this point now, 3 years into Love as a starter in the system, really getting down the road, I think Stinovich is limited at what he can add to this, because this is the extent of his experience as an offensive coordinator. So, and this is not this is really more like me saying again that I was wrong before, but to say now it's like it's not even that he's a problem, it's that there is an opportunity to upgrade in that position that could upgrade the whole thing. So my whole thing is go ahead.
No, how do you know he's limited in what he can add or that he can upgrade?
Well, just from like a developmental perspective, he's never been an offensive coordinator before being an offensive coordinator for the Packers. So he doesn't have experience.
Andy Reid, a head coach, was never an offensive coordinator. Never called a play in his career. He was a quarterback coach. He's done pretty damn good as an offensive head coach.
A lot of experience to draw on, right? Stinovich was an offensive line coach and then an offensive coach.
Andy Reid was a tight ends coach and then a quarterbacks coach.
Right.
Never was a coordinator.
He climbed the ladder. Like
Stinovich, right, I don't
jumped rungs on those ladders.
No, he went from an offensive line coach to an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, but I'm not again, like we're 3 years into this and they've had success. So I'm not saying that, oh, well, he's not capable. I'm saying he's limited in what he can add to the situation. He is an extension of LaFleur. And I think right now what they need is not an extension of LaFleur. They need someone who comes in who can complement LaFleur. Somebody who has called games in this league for years, who can look back on experience and go, when I was in this situation against this defensive coordinator, here's how I handled it. Stinovich can do a little bit of that, but he's not really doing a lot of that. And that's not to, again, I want to repeat and reiterate, that's not to say, well, he's a total failure and completely incompetent. No, I think he has done, and again, this is me admitting I was wrong in 2023. He's done a good job up to this point. But I think that when you are early in your career, as he is as an offensive coordinator, you're limited in what you can contribute to the situation that you're learning from. And let me compare that to another situation that has since really, played out well for the individual, Kellen Moore. When he was the offensive coordinator in Dallas, it was everybody wanted him out. Nobody wanted him here anymore. Nobody wanted him in Dallas anymore. He was at the end of his rope there. And then he goes to Philly and he wins a damn Super Bowl. And now he's the head coach of New Orleans. Or is it New Orleans? Where'd he go? I can't remember. He's a head coach somewhere.
New Orleans.
Yeah. So the point being is it's not that he can't have success in this league. I just think that, again, you're limited in what you can add to the situation that you're learning from. Kellen Moore, when he was in Dallas, man, he just couldn't contribute any more than he was already given. Because for one, he was competing with Dak as a quarterback for the job when he was then promoted to quarterbacks coach and then offensive coordinator. So it's like now you're coaching the guy that you used to compete with and you actually lost the job to. So that was weird. And it didn't mean that he couldn't go off and have success, but it was just like, you've probably learned as much as you can here. Go to this other place, learn from this other guy and continue to grow. I think that's who Stinovich is and will be. I think he'll grow as he goes. I just don't think that I don't think he can advance this offense more than it already has been, which is not to say it's not a bad thing. Like, they're a good offense. We're sitting here frustrated because this thing isn't producing 30 to 40 points a game like we all think it should. And he certainly has a hand in getting it to this point. So go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, so that's why I believe there's an opportunity to upgrade the position. It's not necessarily an indictment on the guy that's there. It's just like, dude, you're limited. You're limited to growth. Like you're limited. That's that you're young in your career, and that's all there is to it. He's got a lot more to learn, and so can he be a great extension of LaFleur? Yep, but we're seeing the ceiling of that right now.
Okay, so the Kellen Moore thing, I think Kellen Moore was thrown on Mike McCarthy, right? So like he had Mike McCarthy looking over his shoulder. Mike McCarthy wanted to call the plays, but in order to get the job, he was told by the Joneses, "We want to keep Kellen Moore as a play caller."
Yeah,
And
they
their
loved him.
offenses statistically were still pretty good with Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
And then McCarthy finally got antsy enough. They had their playoff losses and said, "I want to call the plays. Kellen Moore's out."
I'm telling you, it feels similar. Like it, from an observer's perspective, feels similar because Kellen Moore, it felt like he had reached the peak of his potential in Dallas. Like a lot of the fans were fed up. There was situations where he got really predictable. And Mike McCarthy's no bum, right? Like if Kellen Moore was good, like he would have kept him around in some way. But I don't, like he went off and had success. Like this is not calling Kellen Moore a bum. Like I just think that when you're in a situation, you get there are limits to the potential of the situation, and when you leave that situation, you grow from it.
Do you think Matt LaFleur is a good play caller? Because if you do, then he shouldn't need somebody who has play calling experience to come in and
I
help
think
him.
What we can see right now, no, what we see now is not good, and I don't know that what we see is as
fifth in the league in points per game coming into the weekend.
But see, that's it though, Tim. Like that's the thing that we keep doing. We go, well, we're frustrated by what we see, but have you seen Matt LaFleur's win percentage? Like, I know it's good, but then you have this game against a team like the Panthers where you can't put up more than 13 points. Like, oof, bruh. No, dude, like that's not going to be you aren't going to win championships with that. You will win games, and this is where you've seen plenty of examples of this. There's plenty of great regular season teams that never win championships. I mean, look at the AFC; it's a graveyard of them. And the Cowboys for years. Now that we're talking about the Cowboys, like there's a lot of teams that have been great, and they'll never go through that run because they can't adapt. They can't win that chess match in the game, and that's what the Packers are demonstrating right now. They're demonstrating that, when the circumstances are right, they're going to run the numbers, man. They're going to put up big numbers. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But as soon as some ounce of adversity hits, they're just like, does not compute. And you're like, like reboot? I don't know, man. What do you mean? Like how do you not put up more than 13 points against the Panthers?
The offensive performance was awful. And that starts with the head coach, who's the play caller and play designer of that offense. That's where the blame should be, not on a coordinator who we don't know what he's doing because we're not in the building. He's not the play caller. You can't. If your problem is with what they're doing and what plays are being called and how it's being executed, then that's on the head coach. He's the play caller. If you want to talk about bigger picture, like maybe defenses are figuring out their scheme, maybe they need to have more growth and change up the offensive philosophy and the scheme and stuff like that. Those are bigger picture. And I'm more open to that. I think we need to let the season play out, and that's an end of season. Like,
it's not something that's going to happen right now.
Right.
Certainly
but if we're talking about play calling and execution, that's the floor. And
sure. So can I like take that point and clarify like where my criticism of Stenavich enters that picture?
Mm-hmm.
It has everything to do with just like, I guess the way I always think about it is I think about the meeting room, right? You got the offensive guys in there, you got the coaches around them, you're watching the film. Like I think about that setting, right? It's sort of a metaphor of how to imagine the management of the team. And so the offensive coordinator, regardless of, let's say the guy does not call plays, he either has influence on what's called or he doesn't. Is that fair to say?
Probably.
I mean, he has to, right? Like he's got some input on the game plan, right?
It depends on what they're asking him to do.
Exactly.
Yes, he definitely. I would say during the week, he probably they split up the duties. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Different coaches do different things as far as this is, but we don't know. Is he the red zone guy? Because the red zone sucked on
we don't
Sunday. They were 7th in the league coming into the game for touchdowns. coming in, but then they sucked it. We don't know if that's his responsibility. We don't know what it is.
We don't,
presenting
and
the
that's
game
why
plan
I
and
don't
the
claim
offensive-
anything definitively. Right?
Right.
It's
So
analyzing context.
we don't know that. But the bottom line is there's not a play that's called in that game that Matt LaFleur didn't know about, didn't approve, didn't want to call.
No.
Through him.
And that's not how I'm framing this. My point is that there is a person in that room right now. It's Adam Stenavich. If it was Mike McDaniels, things might be different.
It might be worse.
Sure, they might be worse for sure. I'm not denying that at all. Things aren't going great down there in Miami.
It might be worse.
But my point being, what if it was Sean McVay, right? Like my point being is there's room for a better individual in that seat, strictly based on experience alone, like purely based on experience. There just definitely is, and it's not to say that Stenavich is a bum. I don't believe that. That's not what I believe. I believe that there are far more experienced and better qualified offensive coordinators that you could put in that position.
He has more years as an offensive coordinator than Matt LaFleur did when he was hired as Packers head coach.
Great. He hasn't called
so what the hell
plays
does
under any other
for?
system. He hasn't learned anything. He's just Matt LaFleur. What you asked me, so one thing you asked was, is Matt LaFleur a good play caller? Right now, no. Right now, he's not a good play caller. So to me, the way I view that is his play calling is a culmination, a summation of what the offense does throughout the week, the preparation of that. And the offensive coordinator has some role. It's ambiguous what the role is, but he has some role in it. And if we don't like the finished product, which right now we have fair criticism of the finished product, it's worked sometimes. It's hey, they've over the last 3 years, they've had a pretty good offense, sure. But it's also led to this point where you've put up 13 points against the Panthers, right? Like and this isn't like, oh, well, this is an anomaly. Up to this point this season, they've been perfect. No, we've seen again, like you pointed this out at the beginning of the show, like we've watched this team throughout the season and gone, this is frustrating. Oh, they win. All right, well, they're winning. That's what we want. We want winning. It's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to be clean, and we just sort of accept that. But now here it is. The thing that we've been frustrated about has produced a turd, man. Like losing to the Panthers is a turd. Is it the end of the world? No. But at this point, it's like, man, I've seen a lot of this. And yeah, so I am. I'm gonna point some criticism at somebody who is also a leader by definition of his position on this offense and say, I'll bet you could upgrade that position. I bet you could. I bet that there's another guy who has called games in this league in the playoffs, that would be better suited to be in LaFleur's ear throughout the week than Adam Stenavich.
Why does that position have to be a play call?
I'm not saying it has to be. I'm just saying I think you could improve the position, and I don't think that's an unfair thing to say at all.
Can you improve at defensive coordinator? Should Jeff Hafley be getting blamed?
Oh, I don't know.
Why aren't you blaming Jeff Hafley? Or why aren't you blaming?
Well, first of all, he does put ketchup in his coffee. So anybody who thinks Jeff Hafley should be a head coach right now is off their rocker.
Well, I don't know if there's anybody that thinks he should be a head coach right now.
He's doing an excellent job. And so honestly though, Tim, that's a great comparison, man. Like when I look at Jeff Hafley and I ask myself, is there somebody better for that job right now? I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that there's anybody I would say is better to be the Packers defensive coordinator right now than Jeff Hafley. But when I go, is there a guy that would be better than Adam Stenavich to be in LaFleur's ear as they prepare the offense throughout the week and get him ready to call the games? Yes, I think there are probably multiple people out there that would be better equipped for that, purely based on their experience alone. I don't know why that's an outrageous thing to say.
I'm not saying it's outrageous, but it all comes back to experience. He has experience. He's been in that position.
But he doesn't have as much as somebody else does. He hasn't called games in playoffs.
So you have to call games in playoffs.
No, but I'm saying if you have somebody in that seat who is sitting next to LaFleur throughout the week as they prepare for games that has called games in many different situations, it is a better influence than somebody who hasn't.
Why does Matt LaFleur need that? Shouldn't he be
Because
good
his
enough
play
at this
calling is
point?
not good enough right now.
Okay, then he shouldn't be the play caller. And then maybe we should be talking, should he be the head coach?
Well,
Because
but see, that's where I think you're going further than I am.
I'm
not
not going
that
further,
far.
but like he hasn't been good enough as a play caller. So we need to get somebody in here experienced to be in his ear to help him with play calling. So that's a pretty big indictment against your head coach and your play caller.
No, I don't think it is. And I think that
How
that's
is it
where
not?
what's
He's
an
not
indictment
good
on his
enough.
play calling. It's not an indictment on him as a head coach. His
But
role
that's
as a
a
head
big part
coach
of
is
his
not
head
to be the best
coach.
play caller in the game. His role as a head coach is to be a leader of men of this team. It's to fix the problems that exist. So if there is a problem, like when Joe Barry was not a good defensive coordinator, he had to identify that and fix that problem, and he did.
And it took
That's
him
why
3
you don't
years.
fire LaFleur, the head coach. LaFleur, the head coach, has proven in multiple ways that he is a very good head coach.
Hang on.
But I think that there's also a drag on him because he's still being LaFleur, the offensive coordinator. And
because he wants to be.
Sure,
That's
but
what he wants.
That's fine. Maybe that is what he wants. But in my opinion, and again, I'm only asserting these as my opinions. In my opinion, if you put somebody in that offensive coordinator position that is more equipped than Adam Stenavich is on experience alone, it's like a halfly quality coordinator, right? Like he went out and proved that he could find someone who is very high quality to put in a coordinator position. He proved he could do it. And I think we all thought Rich Bisaccia was a damn good hire when it happened. But point being, if you put a halfly quality person in the offensive coordinator seat right now, and there was no way I will agree that Stenavich is a halfly quality coordinator. I won't agree to that. But if you did, I think that all ships would rise as that tide rises, because it would equip Matt LaFleur to be more of a head coach and less of an offensive coordinator. There would be less pressure on him to do that. And if there is somebody that is better at calling the plays than him, that would be great. And pressure him to hand that off. You know, like whatever it is, it's not good enough right now. But I don't think that I think firing LaFleur, the head coach, is big time the wrong move, because you've seen things now.
Suggesting that,
No, I know, but I think a lot of people would like to. And so I want to be clear that I'm nowhere near that button. I'm nowhere near that button. I think firing LaFleur, the head coach, is the wrong move. But LaFleur, the offensive coordinator, needs to go. Right. He needs to be able to step out of that role and be more of an advisor to the role than anything else. And right now, Stenavich has been good, but he is not elevating anything. He is just an extension of LaFleur. He is only as good as LaFleur is on his best day. And if LaFleur's having a bad day, Stenavich isn't going to make it better. That's what I'm like trying to say is if for whatever reason there's a weakness, like this week. Like remember LaFleur struggled against Saleh, right? Saleh's got his number, you know, and for whatever reason, whenever he went up against Saleh as the defensive coordinator, he couldn't beat him. If you have a guy in your corner who is the offensive coordinator that has experience, who maybe has Saleh's number, right? He's undefeated against Saleh. You now, Matt LaFleur, as the offensive coordinator and play caller that wasn't good enough before, don't have to be that person. You still get to be Matt LaFleur, the leader of men, Matt LaFleur, the good head coach that we've seen be a potentially great head coach. And you have this guy in your corner now who is a weapon in himself, right? Like that's a guy who can do more than you can as an offense. So that's what I think I'm looking for. I don't think you're ever going to, at least in the existence now, Stenavich as LaFleur's offensive coordinator, he's not going to be a better offensive coordinator than LaFleur could be. He may go somewhere else and grow into that, but I don't think you'll ever see that kind of growth happen while he's under LaFleur, because again, he's limited by what he can learn from. That's where that comes from. It's not to say that I know anything for certain. It's just that when you observe the context, the facts that we know, that he was an offensive coordinator before, he's learned what he knows from LaFleur. Yeah, he's been successful, and he's not a bum. I'm not calling him a bum. But yes, I think now if you improve at that position, you improve in a lot of ways. And I think it makes LaFleur overall a better head coach.
A lot of what you're saying, you're blaming on Stenavich, and it's a Matt LaFleur issue. I think you're missing Matt LaFleur.
Right, but it's Matt LaFleur's responsibility to fix it. So him as the head coach, it is somewhat his responsibility to fire himself as the play caller if he's not the best one for the job. And if the guy that he has as the offensive coordinator isn't equipped for that job, you need somebody better. You need somebody who is equipped for that job. Now, all of a sudden, if LaFleur, the play caller, is not good enough, and, Stenavich, the play caller, is not good enough. I'm not saying he's not. We just don't know. LaFleur's telling me he's not if LaFleur insists that he's better. But if that's where you're at, now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, if LaFleur's not good enough as a play caller and the offensive coordinator is not better than him, then now you don't have a play caller. Well, that's a problem. You should probably fix that. Go find a play caller. But that's where I'm at with it. It's like he, as the head coach, he's responsible for identifying the problems and fixing them. And we could have a whole other episode about Richie B, but I don't think there'd be much disagreement for us to have on that one.
LaFleur's 0 for 3 with special teams coaches.
I don't know what's going on there.
And he stuck with Joe Barry for 3 years. So I'll just say that about hiring people. Yes, Hafley's been a great hire. I think your issue is with Matt LaFleur, and you're putting the blame on someone else.
Though.
And if LaFleur ultimately wants to give up play calling, and he gets asked that question every year at his end of season press conference, he'll get asked it during the season, and he's always, if it's for the better, if I determine it's what's in the best interest of the team, I'll do that. And he never does. He wants to be the play caller.
Right.
But at the end of this thing,
which tells you that there's not a better person on staff.
No, it doesn't tell you that. It tells you that that's what he wants to do. He came up as an offensive coach. He came from Tennessee calling. That's what he wants to do. He's a competitive guy. He wants to call plays like so many other offense. He came up under McVay. He came up under Shanahan. They call their own stuff. He wants to call his own stuff. That's why he wants to do it. If he didn't want to do it, then in 2019, he wouldn't have done it. And either Nate Hackett or whoever else he would have decided to hire as coordinator would have from that point
I
on.
think that was a
He
totally
wants
different
to
time.
call plays. He's not
Totally different situation.
He doesn't have anybody. I totally believe if he decided, I don't want to call plays, I want somebody else to do it, but I'm not he would have went out and got somebody. He had Tom Clemens on staff who called plays.
He needs to have a realization that he's not the best guy for that job.
Then that's a different conversation. And if he realizes, you know what, I'm not getting it done, he's not a good enough play caller, then that's, again, a Matt LaFleur problem. And if we get to that point and he decides, I have to give a play call, or somebody comes to him, Ed Policy says, you know, Matt, you suck at play calling, or you're just,
right. I mean, that was where I was about to go.
Want to take it off your plate, and that's the solution. Then he needs to look, is Stenavich good enough for it? And if he's not, then maybe there's somebody else on staff. Maybe he's got to go off staff. That's a different conversation.
That's the path I'm down right now. I'm down that path. I already had the meeting with Ed Policy in my head, and Ed was like, hey, LaFleur, look, you are a good head coach.
Calm down. Can we let this play off?
Hey, because Ed didn't extend him.
I think he didn't extend him. He had 2 years left on his contract. He also said, I don't believe in lame duck coaches or GMs, because Goody's contract is the same structure. So we're going to know at the end of the season, they're not going to go into next year on 1-year deals. They're either going to be extended, or the other option is there's going to be a change. I find it hard to believe there's going to be a change in either position unless this thing really goes south. And I don't think it's going to get to that point.
And that's why I am where I am, is I think that under no circumstances do they want head coach LaFleur to go anywhere. But I think they want head coach LaFleur to grow up a little bit and realize that he's not the best play caller. And he needs to go find somebody who is.
All right. I think you're reading into it way too much. I think we have no idea what and I guess you mean Ed Policy, what he thinks of anything. Like,
well, sure, no, but I mean,
he can't say that he wants LaFleur to grow up as a play caller. Like, he might be more than happy with LaFleur. He might be blaming other things or find that there's other issues. Like, I think you're reading way too much into stuff that's not really there. And some of the bigger picture things, you absolutely may be right. And maybe we get to the end of the season, we're having these conversations. But I think you need to just let it play out. And the frustration right now should be with the head coach / play caller. Right, because that's on him. And I don't even like the play calling is one thing. The game management is a separate issue. And I know your response could be, well, if he's not calling plays, he has more time to be a game manager. Well, I could point you to Mike Tomlin, who's not a play caller on either side of the ball, and boy, does he make some bad decisions, right? And their fan base wants to trash him at times, right? So, like, just because you're not a play caller doesn't mean you're going to make the right game management decisions either. He needs to be able to do that as a head coach. And there are plenty of head coaches that are play callers that can manage a game too. And he's struggling with that. And he also has an assistant head coach who's also the special teams coach who's supposed to help.
Well, that's the person I would blame for the failure of game management. I mean,
it starts with LaFleur. And he has analytics guys that are in his ear during the game that can feed him information about when to go for things, when to kick, all that. So this starts with LaFleur, and then we can get into, like, there are plays that he calls that we sit here and we can criticize, or maybe not you and I, but people online are criticizing. And it's like, you know what? If Romeo Dobbs gets a block on the fumble by Savion Williams, it's not such a bad play. And if this guy executes, it's not such a bad play. Like, and we don't even know. They may be calling the right play, but one person screws up their assignment and it gets blown up. Like, there's a lot that's going into this besides just play calling. Players have to play better. But to me, it all starts with LaFleur. And play calling, game management have to be better. The way
I don't disagree with that. I'm just looking beyond.
The way he gets his team prepared. The way defensively that they're preparing, and the lack of adjustments defensively. The offensive line, the issues that they're having there. Like, there's a lot that is going into this. And I think, like,
Stenavich is supposed to be helping you with the offensive line. Like, I mean, like,
they have an offensive line
back, I can blame it at him.
And I can go back and say,
game too.
When he was the offensive line coach, he did a hell of a job. David
so why is the offensive line bad now that he's not? I mean, he should still be able to oversee that.
Because they moved Elton Jenkins to center and he hasn't played well. Because they've been yo-yoing Jordan Morgan all over. Zach Tom's playing hurt. Like, Aaron Banks has been in and out of the lineup. There's a lot of reasons. Again, like, does Stenavich deserve some of that? Probably. I don't know how much he's in on the decision making as far as what they're doing on the offensive line. And I know he was an offensive line.
He has influence over it.
He sure does.
You can't say he doesn't.
The number one person with the most influence and the most decision making is Matt LaFleur.
Yes, but I don't disagree with that. I think what the only thing that I'm doing is I'm looking at that and going, okay, well, do you fire LaFleur? And I go, no. I think that's where you have to dive into the nuance of things and go, all right, well, so then if there are issues, and this is where all we're doing as fans is speculating anyway. It's not like I'm talking to Ed Policy trying to tell him what to do. But I just think that I imagine Ed Policy, I mean, he's an executive. He acts like executives. Executives look at guys like LaFleur and go, okay, well, how do we get you to maximize who and what you are? And when they see you distracted with something that, yeah, you may enjoy that and you might have been good at that before, but you're going to be way better at this. Let's leave that alone. Go develop as this. Like, that's not me jumping to massive conclusions. I mean, I think that if Ed Policy is looking at this team as an executive would, that's how he should be looking at the head coach, is how do you get your head coach to evolve into the best form that he could be? And he's going to be looking at him like an executive. And if you are looking at him like an executive, you go, look, Matt, your team's good, but it's not great. You have flaws. You as the head coach, as the leader, yeah, it all starts with him, starts and ends with him. But once you identify what those problems are, what's the answer? And if play calling is a problem, what's the answer? And if it's not Stenavich, what's the answer? Right? Like, that's where I'm at in this whole thing. Is I'm looking around the room going, you're not going to get rid of LaFleur, to be realistic, unless there's just a catastrophic collapse. You're not getting rid of him for intangible reasons that I think that the organization has already identified. And I think it's easy to see, if we're being honest as fans, when things are going right. We see it. We're like, dang, dude, this is really good. Like, when they're good, they're really, really good. And we want more of that. And I think that LaFleur is more responsible for that than anybody. So, I mean, we saw it. We saw what it looked like to go from McCarthy to LaFleur with Aaron Rodgers. And everybody wanted to say, oh, yeah, LaFleur would win. He's got Aaron Rodgers. Like, no. Y'all have a short memory, all right? Aaron Rodgers was being described as washed, and the Packers were going downhill when McCarthy left. It was ugly. It was getting uglier. And then LaFleur came in and immediately turned things around. And it wasn't him alone, but he led the charge. He's the leader. He's the head coach. And so I think that you cannot disregard any of that. So whatever it was about LaFleur, the leader of men, that created that, you want to take that and you want to maximize that. And if play calling is getting in the way, which I think it's fair to say it could be, maybe it's not, maybe it is, it could be, then Ed Policy's definitely going to be like, hey, Matt, check it out, man. Love you. Want you to be around. Here's the ways you can improve. You got to do something about this play calling thing. You got to do something. Get it off of your plate. Make it better. Whatever. Here's the other ways you can, like, that's how it's going to go. It's not even going to be like an emotional thing. It's just going to be, look, dude, this is holding you back. You could be better. We want you to be better. We think you're awesome. We want to actually give you an extension, but here's the things you got to do. And LaFleur is probably going to be like, sure, let's do it. I don't think it'll be a fight even, I don't think, and there are across the league, there's examples of coaches that want to be the play caller and insist on it. And I get that. I totally get it. I think in those situations, they know that they know the best call for the situation, right? Like they know their offense the best. And I think like with McCarthy was calling the plays with Rodgers, and then they tried to do that handoff and it didn't work. It went really poorly and they had to go back to McCarthy. That was a prime example of like, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. Stop it. Like maybe McCarthy's not the best play caller in the game, but whatever it was about him and Rodgers, he was the best play caller for Rodgers at the time. He tried to hand that off and it didn't go well. So I'm not saying that that's always the answer, because before it wasn't. But in this case, it feels like that could be the answer, because you have a head coach in LaFleur who is a fine leader of men. He seems like a top-notch head coach in this league who might just be held back by too much responsibility, and play calling can be part of that. And that's where I, again, come back to Stenavich has been great for what he needed up to this point. I think now he needs an offensive coordinator. This is, again, I think, right? Like I'm not some all-knowing, but from my perspective, he needs an offensive coordinator who can stand on his own. And maybe it is somebody who speaks the same language in the same system as LaFleur that he knows and is comfortable with, and is like, look, all right, I know that guy. He's been in it. He's called the plays. Like, all right, I'm going to put him there. And then Stenavich goes off and becomes an offensive coordinator for somebody else and wins a Super Bowl, right? Like I'm not saying the guy won't be great, can't be great. I just think where we're at now, when you look around the room, how do you upgrade things? How do you get better from here? If LaFleur is going to get an extension from Ed Policy, is this stuff that's going to come up? I think it is. Ed Policy's watching the same thing that we're watching, man. Like, it's not like we're watching two different games. What's that?
He knows a lot more than we know.
Sure. Yeah. And he'll make, the best. Yeah. And so if I were to sit here and say, well, if Ed Policy doesn't fire Matt LaFleur, he's a fucking idiot. Like, I'm not going to say stuff like that. I just, again, like, from analyzing the context of the situation, there are areas that you could improve. And we spent a whole episode ignoring probably the bigger area they could improve. I think if you trade out Rich Bisaccia with somebody else, anybody else at this point, and again, he might go off somewhere else and be the best special teams coach in the league again. There's just some sort of curse on Green Bay special teams. I don't know what it is. If you have a different special teams coach in that position, I think things could be better, right? Like if you have somebody who can advise on game management better, whoever is in his ear on game management, we got to fix that. We got to get that, and we got to fix it. But there's a lot that could be. So I'm not sitting here, like, yeah, things are fun and emotional and all that. And I made a wisecrack and Nagler called me on it. But I'm not sitting here saying that Stenavich is the problem. I think that that area, his position is an area you could improve. I think that's more of a fair way of characterizing it.
I'll just point out a great comment that Bill just had.
Yeah, comments have been flying. I haven't even seen the comments.
Bill says, can we please calm down? We have 10 more games to play. I agree, Bill. Thank you. And let's calm down. We've had that debate about Stenavich again.
And I also wanted to be clear, like, this is not just something I'm bringing out because they lost. And Tim, back me up on this. I've been critical of Stenavich since 2023. I have.
Every time they lose, you're critical. When they win, you're not giving any praise. Let's be clear. Last week, when they scored 35 on the Steelers, did you say, hey, great job, Adam Stenavich? No.
Well, here's, and I'm glad you bring that up because Nagler brought that up too. Nobody else gives him credit either. That's another thing where I'm going.
Not too many people are ripping him like you are, though. I don't.
No, I'm not. But there's nobody praising him as him being the reason for success when they have it.
Because nobody really knows what's going on.
But where are the coaches
really
and the players?
Coaches
and players have a way of but that's not what I'm asking. I'm not saying from the fans. I'm saying from coaches and players. You just don't hear it from them. And that's why the article that Nagler shared was refreshing, because that was the first time I had seen like somebody talk about what they really loved about Stenavich and from Bakhtiari of all places.
I don't see anybody praising the running backs coach. Does that mean they should get rid of him too?
Right? No, there and again, shout out to Nagler. He's you're going on vibes. Yes, I am going on vibes. There are ways that you can usually get some context clues to go, hey, that guy seems to be climbing the ladder. Like Campanelli, right? I mean, excellent linebacker coach. I don't think anybody believed he was going to stay at that level. So when he got promoted to DC, makes sense, right? We heard about the guy, knew about him. These guys that are good position coaches, you hear about them, and even coordinators, you hear about them. And so like, like when Stenavich is around now and they have had success that they've had, and you hear about other people getting praised for that except for him, I'm like, well, don't shoot me for not praising the guy. Nobody else is either. I don't have anything to go off of from people who have more insight than I do. So I'll go off of what I see. And what I see is, an opportunity for an improvement. Like that, again, like I said, and let me be very, very clear. In 2023, I was wrong. In 2023, my criticism of Stenavich is I did not believe that a guy who had never been an offensive coordinator before and never played quarterback could help to develop a young Jordan Love as a starting quarterback. I thought that he was a liability there, and I was wrong. I'm saying, hey, I'm saying I was wrong. I'm not defending that. I was wrong. He was in fact a great guy to be an extension of LaFleur, which is exactly what LaFleur needed to bring Jordan Love up, right? Like, because LaFleur is also the head coach, right? So he was a great move. So I was wrong then. And I just want to be clear. Like, I've been critical of the guy for a long time. It's not that I've been critical only when now they lose and I'm sick of blaming LaFleur. So now I'm going to blame Stenavich. I'm just looking around going, all right, like I see there's still opportunity for improvement there. Again, to just sort of reiterate that point. And yes, we can calm down, Bill. I promise we'll calm down. But
I'll just, if you're going against like who's praising who, like there are a lot of players that praised Nate Hackett when he was in Green Bay, and as soon as he left Green Bay, it was a disaster. So I don't care about who they're talking about and praising.
I just don't hear
players. There are some players that like Joe Barry.
No, I know. But
it doesn't mean anything.
The only thing they had to say about him is that he's a real nice guy, So I start hearing about Stenavich being a cool dude. I'm like, dadgummit, this is coming up again.
If they were saying he's really good, does that mean anything? Because they were saying, oh, we love Nate Hackett, and he left and he was terrible as a head coach, and then he got another shot as a play caller.
It's just something. It's just something.
That
right?
means
so like if I'm critical of a guy and there's no positive information to come out and counter that criticism, it's like, all right, well, maybe my criticism's correct then. Again, maybe the word maybe's in there. I'm not standing here saying that I know all and that Stenavich is the biggest problem, that if you fixed it, this team will win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that. I know
that Stenavich, he gets up there every week and he's not great at the podium talking. Who cares?
Fine. Neither was Bill Belichick.
And when you compare it to Hafley, who's great up there, there's a huge difference. And everybody loves Hafley, and I love Hafley too. But like ultimately, like what they do up there doesn't mean anything. So I don't care that nobody's coming out and being like, "Wow, Adam Stenavich is doing a great job." So what?
No, but it's so like one of the things that I've tried to point out over the years when we're analyzing this stuff, when players speak, sometimes they say things they don't have to say, and you learn a lot in those times, right? And that was one of the reasons I was on the Micah Parsons train pretty early on, but when players say things they don't have to say, you learn, and we learned a little bit about the D-line coach. That didn't go well. There was just stuff that was sort of like unsaid. And you just don't get those nuggets about Adam Stenavich. Like when someone's at their locker or an offseason interview, whatever the case may be, a podcast where somebody's just running their mouth, you don't get that, like, man, that Stenavich, though, he was my guy. And you're saying, like, they said that about Hackett. I hear you. And, sometimes it's not right. Sometimes it is. But the point being is just there's a lack of data there. It's not that there's data one way or another. It's just a lack of data. And that's what really adds more mystery than anything else to the situation. But it doesn't give me anything that says, like, yeah, Stenavich, though, he's a stud. Like, I just don't get that from him, from anybody around him.
There's plenty of offensive linemen that praised him.
As an offensive line coach.
Jenkins, like, go back to that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whatever. I can't do Stenavich anymore. We got to move on. It's exhausting.
I win.
No, not at all. It's just, come on. Like, who cares about what the players are saying about praising guys or not? Like, it really doesn't.
You can learn things in those moments. You just can. Listen to the things that players don't have to say, and you can learn things.
And I present to you Nate Hackett. They all love Nate Hackett. Do you want Nate Hackett?
I'm not saying anything's absolute. I'm not saying anything's absolute.
Then it doesn't matter, and it's worth nothing.
Well, none of this matters, Tim. Come on, man. Don't degrade this podcast that we've got 119 episodes of. And if you guys love this conversation, why don't you jump on over to the YouTube channel and like and subscribe. Spike that like button for us. Subscribe to this YouTube channel.
Before we get into the Eagles, and we should get into the Eagles, a lot of injuries piling up.
Yes.
Yeah. Tucker Kraft, obviously, we touched on him at the beginning. That's a disaster. So I know they don't necessarily feature him because they want to spread it around, but he's a huge part of the offense, and his absence is going to change the way they run the offense. Like there's not very many Tucker Krafts around the NFL, and they certainly don't have one on the team. But like, you can't ask Luke Musgrave to do what Tucker Kraft did. And Luke Musgrave, you're going to have to ask him to do what he's capable of, which we'll see. This is a huge opportunity for Musgrave. It might be his last big opportunity in Green Bay to make an impact. And, they're going to have to change up what they do offensively. As far as the run game goes, because he's such a big part of that. Personnel they're going to use is going to have to change. You're probably going to see a lot more 11 personnel. Maybe they go to 6 offensive linemen at times. That's kind of a new fad around the NFL. We saw the Steelers do it a lot to the Packers last week. Maybe they do that because they're going to need somebody, in that tight end position. If it's an offensive lineman, a little bit different, but you're going to need a blocker there. And they don't, Fitzpatrick's, I guess, okay as a blocker. Musgrave he's not okay as a blocker, but you shouldn't be asking him to do Tucker Kraft things. So you're going to have to restructure the offense now without Tucker Kraft. It's a huge loss, but it can be done. We saw Matt LaFleur last year when he lost his quarterback. On the fly, they changed the offense to suit Malik Willis. He can do it, and there's similarities to 2010. They lost Jermichael Finley. They had to change the offense when they lost Finley, and it took some time. But it eventually clicked for them, and they were able to overcome Finley's loss. They're going to have to do it again, but it's a huge loss for this team. Huge. He's one of those. Other than Jordan Love on offense, he might be the one guy that you couldn't lose, right? Other than Love, like, is there
anybody put Jacobs in that category? I think if you lose Jacobs, your running game goes completely out the window.
Yeah, but it's huge. So this is, again, it's on the offensive staff now. Like, how can you restructure that offense to get the most out of everyone, to make it more suited to what Musgrave and Fitzpatrick can do at tight end and overcome that loss. It'll be really interesting to see. That it's a big ask, but it's the NFL. Like, it doesn't stop. So teams are faced with this kind of stuff all the time. You got to adapt, and they're going to have to do that and make up for the loss of Kraft. So it hurts too, because I think not having Jaden Reed, whenever he comes back, whether that's later in November, December, who knows, He could offset some of that, at least, in the passing game. Obviously, they're different players, different positions, but I think Jaden Reed, at least in the passing game, could give you some easier completions like Kraft and some yak like Kraft. So that hurts too. But yeah, it's a huge injury. Huge.
Yeah, it hurts. Getting Watson back as he goes out, the net impact will be less because Watson is a tremendous blocker and does bring an element to the offense that you didn't have before, even when Kraft was there. But yeah, you don't replace a Tucker Kraft. You just try to, adapt without him. That's best you can do. So that stinks. That really stinks. I would be more worried about it if Jordan Love wasn't playing as well. And Jordan Love's not perfect. Like, I'm not even here to kill him for the mistakes that he makes. He's largely playing very well.
Yes.
And he's capable of that. And it's not just because of Tucker Kraft, right? But I think, what I'm trying to do is not rehash our debate. But this comes back to play calling, right? Like, you have to be able to look at the situation. And to your point, Tim, like, you have to be able to run this offense for the team that you have, not the team that you wish you had. And so that's my biggest worry about losing Kraft, is that they will just go, all right, Musgrave, you're in there, plug and play, do what Kraft did. And you're just like, oh, no, that's not good. We can't do that. But it feels like there's a risk of that. I hope they will adjust. I hope they will acknowledge that Kraft is a unicorn that you can't just have Musgrave plug in for. And there's ways of doing that. There was one fun little theory that I saw float out on Twitter today about Mr. Myers out there in Las Vegas. Maybe he shouldn't be a tight end too. Maybe he should be tight end one. But we'll see what Goots got up his sleeve. For the guys that you have there, John Fitzpatrick's a big dude, and from what I'm looking at, like, he's got a really strong pass rush or pass block grade, excuse me. So maybe he can help you with some of the things that Kraft did blocking wise. His run block grade's not great, not terrible. Malik Heath, you can get him out there. His blocking grades aren't great right now, but we know he's a good blocker. He's a bully. Like I said, Watson's a good blocker. You'll be able to use him in ways. So, maybe by committee you can try to lessen that blow of losing Tucker Kraft, but you have to be creative in doing that, right? Like, so if you're going to have Christian Watson help you block, that means he's not running a route, and if John Fitzpatrick's out there on the field, that means somebody else isn't, and so it's stuff like that where you start looking at these trade-offs and formations and lineups and who's going to be in and how are you going to use those people when they're in. That's what gets harder. And, I was starting to skim through the comments there to try to get a few of them. And saw our Shower's response to my, kind of hesitating about, is LaFleur a good play caller or not? We've seen LaFleur be a good play caller. That's why I hesitated with that. It's not that he is right now. I think the play calling we're seeing right now is not good. But we've seen him be a good play caller, great at times. And it's fun to watch when he is. And that's what's most frustrating about this. So, my question is, what version of the offense are we going to get? Are we going to get the guy who is a good play caller, who knows how to scheme, under unideal circumstances? I mean, the guy that went into Arizona when they were undefeated and had receiver 1, 2, and 3 out and went and won the game on the road. I mean, like, they've done this before where they've adapted to having, guys out and losing a lot to injuries. But,
Did it last year.
Yeah, but you've also seen where they've had what they want and they can't move the ball against the Panthers, right? So it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to expect here. It is frustrating. And that's, another point that I'd like to acknowledge is, and I think might have been Showers, somebody, I don't know who it was. I don't want to dig through the comments, but somebody was saying, the room's not empty because you got Hackett and the other one in there too. Who's the other one? The other one who went off.
Talking about the coaches,
offensive coordinator, Getsy, Hackett and Getsy in the room, and that's a fair point. Oh. But I guess my point would be is whatever the inputs are for the outputs that we're getting, they're not good. The output's not good. So we need to change the inputs. And
Yeah.
if you're not going to change LaFleur, then the other inputs to look at would be those three: Stinovich, Getsy, and Hackett.
Well,
So
Hackett's not too. He's an advisor. He's not even
right,
on staff
he's in the
in the
room.
building. No, he's not in the room. He's not even, from my understanding, he was there a couple days in training camp. He's more like at home advisor. We
This
call
is
him.
probably like breaking down film or something.
Yeah, like he's not.
So fair
in
enough.
there.
He's not even in the room.
He's not even
But
in the
again,
building.
maybe there's other guys in the room who are experienced. Experience wasn't great, but my point being is whatever inputs are putting out the less than satisfactory output should be adjusted to see if you can get a satisfactory output. And again, like whatever's leading to the less than stellar play calling, change it, because we've seen great play calling. I don't know what the hell happened before when you had great play calling. It looks like you're scheming guys open. It looks like you're, getting the defense on their heels, and you're running motions to see if they're in man, and then you're taking advantage of things. You're manipulating the defense like that. It's like we've seen that before. Where is that? That's what I want. Bring that back. Whatever inputs went into that, bring me those. I don't know if that was Getsy calling the plays. I don't know if that was Stinovich calling the plays, or if it was LaFleur calling the plays. I don't know. Bring me that back. Whatever it was. That's where I'm at with is like I don't really care who it is. Whatever it is that's leading to this less than stellar play calling, change it. Figure it out. So that's where
it's going
I'm
to be tougher without Kraft, and Matthew Golden's got a shoulder injury, though they're saying that's day to day. So maybe he's back for the Eagles. We'll see. But
not that it matters because they're not using him, and I mean that's another frustration. But
I think
I'll have patience with that.
Have patience. He's not running good routes either, so that's on the kid too.
Totally.
But if he's out, you're starting to run out of guys now because it's Dobbs, it's Watson. Malik Heath is more of a blocker, and he'll catch passes here and there. And I know he's made plays in the past, but you don't want him in there too much, catching the ball or being playing a high amount of snaps when you're throwing the ball around. And then Savion Williams is basically like just a gadget guy, which that's another frustration. But yeah, so they have some injuries. Hopefully Colby Wooden comes back on defense, because when he dropped out, not that they were stopping to run too well with him in there, but it was a huge drop off. And that's another issue, is that they have like three defensive tackles that are playing a lot of snaps, and it seems like they're wearing down. And then when Nazir Stackhouse has to play, it hasn't been pretty. And it's pretty clear, like when everybody's healthy, they're going to give Nazir Stackhouse like 5 snaps a game. But when Wyatt was hurt, when Wooden got hurt, all of a sudden his snaps go up, and his play hasn't been good enough. Like they could use another defensive tackle, run stuffer, defensive tackle. Unfortunately, I don't know, if they're going to be able to add one. It probably won't, but maybe somebody shakes loose. So yeah, Wooden's hurt.
Like they've been in the market. I heard they were maybe asking about the guy that I liked coming out of the draft a couple years ago, Devondre Sweat.
Maybe. I mean, we'll see. And then the other one is Nate Hobbs. Now that kind of came up tonight, was that he's out at least a couple weeks with another knee injury. So, I mean, Carrington Valentine was playing over him anyway, but now like you're really pushing it, because after Valentine and Nixon at outside cornerback, Bo Melton, who's never played a snap on defense, and Kamal Hayden, who hasn't played. Kamal Hayden, who basically is active every week and stands on the sideline, doesn't really even play very much on special teams. So you're razor thin at cornerback.
Yeah.
With Hobbs' injury, Banks got hurt, though. Again, that he might be back from that. It was a stinger, so it's not like a long-term thing. But yeah, they're a little banged up, and you got the Eagles coming off a bye week that are healthy, and now with some of the trades they're getting some reinforcements coming in.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, Goot was clear about the urgency thing, right? Like, I don't think that changes. They're still in perfect position for everything to be in front of them. So I think, if anything, the urgency ticks up. We're not firing anybody midseason. we can have fun debates about these things. But I think, the overall sentiment we agree is we hope that they're adapting to the adversity that is in front of them, right? Like, we hope that they can adapt to the Tucker Kraft injury. We hope that they can adapt to whatever the defenses are throwing at them or, offenses are throwing at them. I thought that Micah Parsons made a good point about why they weren't able to get to what's the quarterback's name?
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. I kept wanting to say Bryson. I was like, no, it's not Bryson. Bryce Young. And he said, I think they dropped back 8 times or something like that. They didn't drop back at all. As far as drop back, like the others were just step throw. Like, so it's not that they only threw 8 times. Point being, and this is the point that we've made and we've talked about, is the best way to counteract the Packers pass rush is to just not give them time to get to you. Get the ball, get it out of your hands. And Hafley likes that because he's willing to bet that you can't do that enough to win games. He was wrong in this last game. Now, if you ask any of us, if you hold a team, regardless of the team, to 16 points, should the Green Bay Packers win the game? The answer is yes, right? The Packers should be scoring more than 16 points a game. So I don't point the finger at the defense. Yeah, they could have done better.
I'll just say, like, you're right, like the short, quick passing. But in this game, that wasn't what Carolina did. Bryce Young didn't hit 100 yards passing until the last drive of the game. They
ran
the ball down their throat. They didn't have to throw the ball because they couldn't stop the run. That's a different problem than what we were seeing before. And that's a problem. There's been some signs of that, and they just haven't run into a team with a good enough back, or they've been playing leads where teams get away from the running game. The run defense, it was bad. And you're going to see Saquon Barkley and the Eagles' offensive line. What do you think they're going to do to you? They're going to run the ball down your throat. So, the game plan against the Packers defense has been quick throws, don't hold on to it, beat their pass rush. But Carolina didn't even have to do that because they ran the ball so well. And you should not lose a game when the other quarterback doesn't hit 100 yards passing until the last drive of the game. It's hard to win when your quarterback does that.
So to be fair, we shouldn't really be criticizing the pass rushes. I mean, you should score more than they did. Yeah, you can criticize them for not being good enough. Like, should they have done it? Yeah, sure. But you're holding them to basically 100 yards. I think it was 120 yards passing or something like that. It's 16 points. The offense has to hold up their end of the deal, and they didn't. Like, that's just bottom line. Like, they didn't hold up their end of the deal.
You got to stop the run. And I feel like
you do have to stop
this defense. If they don't have a good pass rush, I don't know what else they really do that well. Like, I got concerns about their corners. They got a takeaway yesterday, but still not a high amount of takeaways. And now the run defense seems to be cracking. I don't know. There needs to be adjustments because there's signs there that there's some flaws on defense that are really starting to show themselves.
Well, and I'm willing to believe that some of those are attributed to, injuries and that kind of thing. But if there's one thing that's true about championship teams, with maybe a few exceptions, is that you've got to be able to stop the run to win Super Bowls. Like, just pretty blanket statement is that. Like, if you can't stop the run, you're not going to get to the Super Bowl. You're not going to win a Super Bowl. But to be fair, like, I don't think it's just been that they've, only gone up against scrubs this season. Like, they handled the Detroit Lions very well. Great offensive line, great backs. They have the ability in them to stop the run. I think that part of this game is they just didn't play well, right? I mean, and I think Parsons said something like that. They came out and they didn't play good, which is going to happen. They shouldn't happen. It's not okay. That goes back to leadership, and I think that goes back to your head coach and your coaches having guys prepared for playing.
And that was a backup, banged-up offensive line that's not very good.
You should have been able to really take advantage of that. But so there's definitely blame that can be handed out to the defense. But when the defense holds them to 16, I'm looking at the offense. You guys got to hold up your end of the deal.
Yeah, primarily for sure.
So I know we're late on this one. This will end up being our longest podcast. We had a great debate on the first half, and we're still going to talk a little bit about this Eagles game. So hang with us, guys. Sorry for this being so long, Al, and just we're gonna keep on keeping on. But with this Eagles game coming up, man, I told you this before. My attitude about this game is they cannot play down to this competition. So I'm excited about that. I think that that's a good sign. So
Sure.
that's where my optimism begins, is you cannot play down to the Eagles.
That's true. And I'll say the Eagles are 6-2. They're a good team. But they really, like, if you look at how they've actually played this year, they've been kind of like okay. They've been kind of like middle of the pack in a lot of things. And they're, for a team that, had started off with 4 wins in a row, and now they're sitting there at 6-2 and coming out of the bye. There's been like a lot of drama around that team. AJ Brown hasn't been happy, and that's been an ongoing issue all year. Their offense is kind of like have some similarities to the Packers, where like they'll play one good half of offense, and then just the second half or
Just disappear.
whatever, just disappear and do nothing. Right? I think they won a game against Tampa where they didn't even complete a pass in the second half. That's unbelievable. The first game of the year against Dallas, they were running them out of the building in the first half. And I think the second half, I'm not sure if they scored or maybe they kicked a field goal or something, but basically did nothing. Dallas's defense is atrocious. They've had a lot of games like that where they've struggled offensively. And the offensive coordinator's taken a lot of heat. He's a play calling offensive coordinator. Sirianni's taken a lot of heat. Jalen Hurts is taking heat. But it seems like right before the bye, they play Minnesota in their second game against the Giants. It seems like maybe they're starting to figure some things out. They're doing more under center stuff. They're doing more play action, getting Barkley going. I think Barkley that's a scary to see Barkley coming in after what the Carolina Panthers just did to our run defense. And then the 2 receivers, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I know we did a decent job on those guys last year in the playoff game. I don't trust the corners to cover those guys this week at all. Our corners are struggling, and those are bad matchups. So, yeah, I'm hoping the issues that the Eagles have had the first part of this year start cropping up again. But it felt like they may be figuring some things out offensively. And then defensively, kind of the same thing. Like they won the Super Bowl last year because of their pass rush, and they've kind of just been mediocre, okay with the pass rush this year because they lost some guys to free agency and really didn't do a good enough job replacing them. And now today they trade for Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins, so there's another pass rusher for him. We'll see what he adds, but yeah, and then they've had issues at outside cornerback opposite Quinyon Mitchell, but they go out and they trade for Jair Alexander. They trade for Michael Carter, who's more of a nickel back, so they may put Cooper DeJean outside. It'll be interesting, like how they set up their secondary, who's playing where, but they're going to play with their safeties back and limit the big plays. So, like, can Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur be patient and like kind of take what the Eagles are giving them and not force the shot plays? Because that's what Fangio wants you to do, is force it downfield, and then they're going to turn the ball over, or they're going to get to the quarterback. Like, you're not going to get big plays against this Eagles defense. It's highly unlikely. So you got to be mistake-free, and you got to be able to run the ball a little bit and be able to hit those intermediate routes, move the ball. Like, attack the middle of the field when you can. They haven't done that enough. And Jordan Love's very good at it, but for some reason, that's a part of the offense that just hasn't been there. It's been a lot of horizontal and let's throw screens out to the sides, and they need to get back to more intermediate passing game. And I think that's what you can do against the Eagles. Again, like Quinyon Mitchell's really good, but they've had struggles, big time struggles at the other corner spot. And, it's a question now who's going to be at that position, because they did make a couple trades, but yeah, it's not a great matchup for the Packers this week, especially the Eagles are healthy coming off the bye, and the Packers are a little bit banged up. But maybe this is like Carolina game's enough of a wake-up call for them. They make adjustments. This is the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year. Maybe it gets their attention more. And like you said, they've played good against some of the better teams, the Steelers, the Lions, and so this is one of those better teams on their schedule. And the Eagles certainly are beatable. They haven't played great football. They've been okay. Some games they've played well. Other games they've won games but not played well, kind of like the Packers. So going to be interesting. I don't love the matchup for our defense against their offense though this week, but yeah, it's coming off Carolina. It's hard to be optimistic for this game, right? Like, are you feeling the same way, or you think?
Well, I mean, I think that's the natural way to feel, but when I step back and look at how things have gone, it's like, well, coming off the win against the Steelers, you kind of felt like everything was headed in a great direction, and then you just completely trip in your face, and it's just like it couldn't have gone worse. I shouldn't say that. It could have gone worse against Carolina, but going off and losing against Carolina at Lambeau was not how I thought that they would follow up that win after the Steelers. So yeah, I mean, honestly, like if we're going off vibes, which I am today, yeah, the vibe would tell me that they probably do turn it around against Philly, and this is going to be probably a pretty good game, and the one thing that I really loved that they did against the Steelers, and they obviously didn't do this against the Panthers, but I would love to see this come back against the Eagles, is they won the psychological battle against the Steelers. And when they got DK poking Quay Walker in the eye, it's like you won at that point. Psychologically, you won the game. You were in their head all day at that point. And I want to see that come back. I think if you can get to a point where you can have that level of psychological advantage over the Eagles, you can crush them, because they do have vulnerabilities. They have, the offense isn't happy. You get them to make a few mistakes early on in the offense, and you make them pay for it. You go up by a couple scores early on. I think they could definitely self-implode. You could see that for sure, but that defense isn't going to make anything easy on the Packers. They're not going to give anything. If Jair's playing, he's going to be as amped up as he can be to go against the Packers, which they may be able to take advantage of that.
He might not even be playing. I mean, he played 2 games this year for the Ravens.
We'll see what's going on there, but they've got a lot of talent on that defense, so you're going to have to earn it. And this is where, if you ask me, can they do it? Yeah, they can. The Packers, absolutely. Matt LaFleur can scheme a good offensive game plan together and beat this Phillies defense. They definitely can do it. Jordan Love can do it. Christian Watson can do it. But will they? Like, that's the part that we keep coming down to. Some weeks they will, yes. Other weeks they will not. And so what do you get this week? You're still at Lambeau. It's Monday night. You get to bounce back, and I'll give them credit. They tend to do well. They tend to bounce back from those bad losses and go out and correct things. So, yeah, I think they can go out and get a win. I think it'll be a hard-fought win, but it'll be a win that you're like, okay, good. Like, we learned that they could win a tough game against a good team, and, you can bounce back from a bad loss. Like, that's how I feel like this will go. I mean, it could get ugly. I mean, it could be bad. We got to see what offensive line shows up. If the O-line shows up, I think you could be in good shape. If the O-line doesn't show up, yeah, I mean, Jordan Love's going to be running for his life. You're not going to be able to establish the run. It could get ugly. It could be very, very tough. You may not be able to score more than 10 points. And at that point, you're looking at kind of a repeat of the playoff game, it feels like, where it's like the defense will keep you hanging in there. But if the offense can't score, the offense can't score, So I'm not going to pick against the Packers, man. I don't have it in me to do it. Guys. I was sitting arm wrestling myself, trying to convince myself, can I pick against? I can't do it. I can't pick against them. So I'm not going to pick against them. But I do think that this will be a very dramatic game. And I think the Packers win 30-28.
I like it.
Do you have a score prediction?
Well, I'll just point out that a couple weeks ago, I didn't like the matchup against the Steelers. I didn't think that was going to go so well for the Packers. I didn't make a pick in that game, and obviously I was wrong. So kind of say the same thing this week. I don't I don't like the matchup. Yeah, I'm not feeling great about this game, but I'm not going to make a pick, and hopefully it turns out the same way as the Steelers game.
All right. Hey, I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious, and I respect your little stitious game there too, Tim. So,
and if it happens again every week, I'm not picking.
Tim doesn't get to pick anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody has to pick for Tim at that point.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got a few people throwing out some scores in the chat here. I see. Oh man, we got a Bears fan. We got a Bears fan. Not only do we have a Bears fan in our chat, we have a Bears fan picking the Packers in the chat. What are you doing, Andy? Are you trying to reverse jinx us? Is that what's going on here? He's a very good Bears fan, if there such thing exists.
Wasn't he the one that said we had 0 chance to beat the Steelers?
He did, and he did.
Yeah.
He did say that the Packers had 0% chance to beat the Steelers. So I think what Andy's trying to do here is reverse jinx the Packers. So I respect your. I would call that superstitious. You're not just being a little stitious with that, Andy. You're being superstitious. I respect it. So he says the Packers win 27-24. Book it. Okay, we'll have to revisit that one, Andy. We'll see what you did there. Let's see. What are some other ones we got in here? I know I saw a few more. We got our friend John Parker says 35-28 Pack. You're kind of on my level there. It's like I think they can score enough, but the defense might give up a few. All right, I like it, John. I like it. We got Matthew Tan here. He's given us a 35-30 Packers win. Love it. You guys are loyal. I dig it, man. Nobody's picking against the Pack. We can't even get a Bears fan to show up in our chat and pick against the Pack. Gotta love it. Okay, we've gone really long here, and if you're just now jumping in with us, you should check out the first half of this episode because we had a pretty sweet debate about Adam Stinovich and the blame that could go around for the offensive struggles. We didn't fire anybody yet. That has to happen in the offseason. We're not going to fire anybody yet. We're a classy organization. We don't do that. But there's a lot of blame to go around, and we're frustrated. We can't tolerate these subpar performances from the offense all the time. So we got to call it out. We got to demand that problems get fixed. And you know what? They've done that. They've been good at it in the past. Problems come up. They exist for a little while, and then they fix them. So I think they're going to keep doing that, guys. I think we're okay. We're still first in the division, still almost right. One Philly win away from being top of the conference. So it's all okay. Let's take a page from 12 and say RELAX, right? Let's just relax. I'll tell myself that too. But if you guys hung with us this long, please jump on over. Give us a spike on that like button. Give us a subscribe on the Packers Talk Network YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate it. Helps us out a lot. We don't usually go this late, but we had fun talking tonight, Tim. I appreciate you, man. Good spirited debate. And Tim might be right. He might be right. But we'll never know. We just don't get to know. We don't get to know what goes on behind closed doors. Maybe one day Adam Stinovich will come on this podcast to defend himself against my blasphemous mouth. But until then, we'll never know. We'll never know. But if y'all want to come back and hang out with us and have some more of these fun debates about what is it going to take to get the Packers to the Super Bowl, for crying out loud, come back next Monday, 9:30 p.m. Central. We're live streaming. We're talking Pack. We're breaking down. Well, no, wait. Hold on. Pause the phone. We got ourselves a Packers game next Monday night.
Next Tuesday.
Tim, are we going to stream Tuesday, or should we just late stream at the end of the game?
I say Tuesday. Give us a little time to digest
it. Okay. We don't want fresh overreactions. I get it. I probably will have some overreactions myself, one way or another. We need to digest some things and sleep on it. That's fair. So we will be back next Tuesday, streaming live at 9:30. We are usually here Monday, streaming live 9:30. But yes, having fun, talking Pack, not getting distracted with certain media blackouts and all that other stuff that national sports media is talking about. We're not getting into all that. We're just sticking to the Pack. And we had a great debate tonight. We'll have more of those coming. And you guys determine who you think is right. None of us know because we just don't get to know. But we love y'all for hanging out. You guys are great in the comments. You guys, we had a great time with you. And of course, as always, go Pack.